Majin Buu is one of many Dragon Ball villains who was redeemed by the end of this saga, remaining a good guy after the evil within him was defeated. Both before and after this, Buu showed that he wasn't really as bad as he seemed, housing innocence behind his temper and the influence of Babidi. Because of this, we decided to look through all the times where Buu showed he was a pretty chill guy. Defeating Babidi. Starting off, we have what's essentially Buu's first act of free will in the Buu saga, defeating his master Babidi. After the tiny alien wizard ticked off the big pink monster too much by commanding and controlling him, Buu snapped, taking Babidi out with a devastating punch that basically turned the wizard's head into a blood-filled water balloon. This was not only one of the most violent acts that Buu committed, but it was also one of his nicest. Now, those might sound like they contradict each other, but when you really think about it, Buu did the world a favor by ridding it of Babidi's power. Remember, Babidi had previously gained control over Vegeta's mind, and had a knack for doing the same with all those who had evil in their hearts. Meaning if Buu hadn't killed Babidi, the wizard could have very likely gained control of Piccolo or any of the other ex-villains of the series. On top of this, Buu was really only evil when he was under the influence of Babidi's appetite for evil and destruction. So if he had let him live, then the Buu saga would have turned out very differently, and Buu would have very likely not been given the chance to become a good guy. Healing the blind boy. After Buu defeated Babidi, he went out on his own to do whatever he wanted, which happened to be causing more terror. While he wasn't as destructive as he was with Babidi, he definitely sought out destruction. However, in an attempt to strike fear within the hearts of humans, Buu actually committed one of his nicest acts. Of course, we're referring to when Buu healed a blind boy's eyes, giving him the gift of sight using his magical abilities. The reason that Buu did this was because he wanted the boy to be able to see so that he could know how terrifying he was. A weird reason to do something so miraculous, sure, but it still ended up giving him the ability to see, making the boy practically worship Buu. This wasn't all Buu did for the boy, since on top of sparing his life, he also brought him milk to give to his family. Sure, it was milk that was made out of a person that Buu transformed with his magic, but the gesture was still there, showing that Buu wasn't as bad as he seemed. In fact, this gesture likely painted the seeds of Buu being less evil, since he clearly felt good about doing, well, good. Time with Mr. Satan. Because Mr. Satan had fooled the world into thinking he was the hero who killed Cell and saved the world, he was eventually tasked with destroying Majin Buu. Something that he definitely was not qualified for. In fact, the only way Mr. Satan could see himself defeating Buu was by using poison and explosives, and neither of those things worked. In order to get close enough to Buu in order to attempt these tactics, Mr. Satan pretended to be Buu's assistant, making food for him and cleaning up after him. During this time, he saw that Buu wasn't all that bad, and instead of trying to defeat him, Mr. Satan sought to learn what made Buu tick. Throughout their time together, the two became friends, and Mr. Satan eventually convinced Buu that killing was a bad idea. During this moment, Buu admitted he didn't realize this, vowing never to kill again, an act that showed he was a nice guy beneath Babidi's influence. This time with Mr. Satan planted the seeds of Buu's transition into a good guy, and it was clearly the reason Mr. Satan vouched for Buu when Vegeta wanted to destroy him in the final moments of the Buu saga. From then on, the two became the best of friends. A Buu and his dog. Buu's relationship with B started almost exactly like his interaction with the blind boy. While out and about, Buu came across the hurt dog, confused as to why he didn't run away from him, since he's so scary after all. Unsure, Buu brought the dog back to Mr. Satan, who pointed out that his back leg was hurt, leading Buu to heal it. Because of this, the dog was grateful and immediately warmed up to Buu, creating a very adorable scene that showed Buu wasn't as bad as he seemed. In fact, Buu cared so much for the dog that he was completely enraged when he got shot, losing his temper and almost killing the gunmen that did the deed. But Buu's temper was quelled when Mr. Satan revealed that the dog was still alive, and with some more magic healing, he was back in good health. Buu's relationship with B showed that he wasn't an evil being, just a confused, innocent creature. In fact, it was his affection towards B that helped Mr. Satan realize he shouldn't take him out, instead trying to teach him to be better. Aw man, is there any story more beautiful than that of a Buu and his dog? Get it? Bad joke, whatever. Saving Mr. Satan. As we previously mentioned, Buu formed an inseparable bond with Mr. Satan during their time together. A bond that would unfortunately end up leading to his descent back into evil. When the gunmen who shot B returned and shot Mr. Satan, Buu completely lost it. After healing Mr. Satan, Buu's rage literally manifested as an evil version of himself, eventually absorbing him and creating Super Buu. This scene was a very important character moment for Buu, since it showed how much caring he was capable of, his rage representing just how much Mr. Satan meant to him. If the evil version of oneself manifesting at the thought of losing a friend isn't true friendship, we don't know what is. This bond continued after the end of the Buu saga, and if we fast forward to Dragon Ball Super, we find that Buu once again became enraged at Mr. Satan getting hurt, protecting him and going after the person who hurt him. In this case, it was Basil, a fighter from Universe 9 who hurt Mr. Satan in order to make Buu fight seriously. And oh man, he got what he wanted, since Buu completely trampled and knocked over the fighter for what he did to his best friend. Fighting Kid Buu. After being absorbed by his evil self, the innocent Majin Buu wouldn't return until Goku and Vegeta removed him from Super Buu's body. Man, that sentence is really weird to say out loud. Anyway, because Majin Buu was really the only good part of Buu, he didn't have many good acts until his final act of the Buu saga. Specifically, during the final battle against the pure evil Kid Buu, Majin Buu worked to stave off his counterpart. The reason that Buu did this was because Goku and Vegeta needed some time to recover from fighting off the creature. Especially Goku, who was exhausted from using his Super Saiyan 3 form in a living body. By stepping in to hold off Kid Buu, Majin Buu showed that he truly was one of the good guys, willing to fight himself to help out. In fact, not only did this act help Goku, but it also likely helped convince Vegeta and Goku to spare his life when Mr. Satan asked for it. Even if this isn't the case, the point still stands. Majin Buu had proven himself to be a hero in this fight, showing that he didn't care for his old evil ways and wishing to forge his own path as a good guy. Deciding to be good. There are two major points in Dragon Ball Z where Buu made the active choice to be a better person, or bubblegum creature demon? The first, as previously mentioned, came during his time with Mr. Satan. After Buu showed genuine affection and care for B, Mr. Satan realized that killing Buu wasn't necessary, and that maybe he had a chance to change him for the better. During this time, he told him that killing was wrong, and the big pink fella vowed to never kill again. This was the first instance of Buu making the decision to be a good guy, a choice that would be solidified by the second instance. Buu's second moment of choosing to be a good guy wasn't quite as momentous, but it was still just as important. We're referring to the end of the Buu saga, when Mr. Satan convinced the others to let Majin Buu live. This, along with the Dragon Balls, allowed Buu to start anew as a good guy, and this time, Buu learned to be kind, caring, and less violent. Though, he's still a bit of an obnoxious glutton who gets angry when he's hungry, but we'll cut him some slack since it's a far cry from, straight up destroying people in cities. Winning matches for Mr. Satan. After the Dragon Balls were used to make the world forget about Majin Buu and his evil acts, Buu and Mr. Satan became best friends and, shall we say, business partners. Of course, we're referencing the fact that with Buu now a permanent part of Mr. Satan's life, he found a way to use it to both of their advantages. In keeping up with the facade of pretending to be the hero of the world, Mr. Satan used Buu as a means of clearing out all the competition in future world martial arts tournaments. This is to say that Buu's massive power was enough to stop any actually powerful opponent from making it to the finals, allowing Mr. Satan to stay on top when Buu would take a fall in the final match. This little scam might not seem all that great to the competitors, but it shows that Buu likes helping out Mr. Satan, especially since it keeps him rich enough to supply the big pink guy with lots and lots of snacks. Again, cheating isn't exactly the greatest thing in the world to do, but this also helps keep up the facade that keeps the Z Fighter's life secret and private. So, we think there's some merit to that. Fighting for Universe 7. Fast forward to Dragon Ball Super, and Buu has clearly settled into the cushy life of living with Mr. Satan. However, that didn't mean he was any less strong or willing to fight for the universe. In fact, there were 3 specific points in Super where Buu showed that he was ready and willing to help out Goku and friends in tournament situations. The first instance of this came during the Universe 6 saga, when Champa challenged Beerus to an inter-universe tournament. Buu agreed to fight in this tournament, and likely would have been a great asset, if he didn't fail the mandatory intelligence test of the tournament. Well, he didn't so much fail it, he just fell asleep on his desk instead of answering the questions. The second instance of Buu fighting for Universe 7 came in the Zen exhibition match, wherein Buu fought against Basil. Unfortunately, this would be the last time Buu would actually help fight for his universe, since by the time the actual Tournament of Power came around, the big log had fallen into one of his deep, weeks-long sleeps. Buu was definitely willing to fight, even getting pumped up for the tournament, but unfortunately he once again couldn't keep himself awake for the actual fighting. Rigging the tournament. We're not entirely sure if the epilogue of Dragon Ball Z is still canon at this point, but if it is, it includes another example of Buu being a pretty nice guy. During the World Martial Arts Tournament that occurred during the Peaceful World saga, Goku was eager as ever to fight. However, this time was a bit different. Instead of just wanting to fight to test his strength, Goku specifically wanted to fight a little kid by the name of Oob. The reason for this was that Oob was stated to be the reincarnation of Kid Buu, something that Goku wished would happen after defeating the villain. In order to face Oob in the tournament, Goku asked Buu to use his magic to rig the matches in his favor, and Buu happily obliged. Again, rigging tournaments isn't exactly a good thing, but it was nice of Buu to help Goku out when he asked, showing that he had moved far beyond the bad deeds he once committed, now willing to use his magic to help others. It's not Buu's greatest act of all time, but it's really worth noting that he helped Goku face Oob, even if it did mean pitting a grown man against a child. So, there you have it. All of the times that Buu showed he wasn't as bad as the other villains of Dragon Ball. Did we leave anything out? Did these moments make you appreciate the character a little bit more? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more Dragon Ball videos. Thanks for watching.